And it's a humongous problem out there with the fact that women are suffering from polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, fibrocystic breast disease, fibromyalgia, uterine fibroids, any type of these cysts and these fibroids. The ovaries actually have the second highest concentration of iodine in a woman's body. You know, when they're deficient, the cysts form. So basically, if there's no iodine in the thyroid, if it's saturated with fluoride, you're not taking iodine in through the body, then the cysts form in the ovaries, and especially around your menstrual cycles. If for the ladies that are listening, if your breasts become tender, you definitely, that's a sign that you have iodine deficiency. Cold hands, cold feet, low body temperature. You know, if you're always cold, that's another sign. Puffiness around the eyes is another sign. A tongue, you know, when your tongue feels like it's too big for your mouth and you have a problem talking, that's another sign of iodine deficiency. Brain fog, low energy in the afternoon, all of these things. We'll go into some more symptoms about that you can look for to see if you have an iodine deficiency soon. But breast tissue is also a huge sponge for iodine, and iodine is concentrated in the breast as well. It's there was an article here that I wanted to read to everybody from 1993. It was recommended that women take 3,000 to 4,000 micrograms a day to promote healthy breasts. Now, that's a huge difference considering the fact that the RDA, our trusted FDA and U.S. government who gets everything right, actually says that we need 150 micrograms per day of iodine. That is extremely, extremely low levels of iodine. How they came up with that number was they looked at when they added iodine to they made iodized salt, and they looked at the minimum amount of iodine that would prevent a goiter from forming, and that was 150 micrograms a day. Personally, now, especially with Fukushima, especially with the chemtrails, especially with all the stuff that's coming down on top of us, you know, the radiation, iodine, the radiation from Fukushima, the iodine, radioactive iodine 131. I mean, we need to protect and saturate our thyroid even more. I usually take, 40 milligrams, which would be 40,000 micrograms, which sounds like an incredibly high number, a couple times a week. But in the case of a nuclear or exposure to radioactive iodine 131, it's recommended that people take 120 milligrams a day for 6 or 7 days to protect their thyroid if they're in direct proportion or direct area where they're going to be affected by that radiotrophic or radioactive 131. So if a woman's thyroid or if a man's thyroid is iodine deficient, so her breasts, her ovaries, everything is going to be deficient. And it's no surprise that the medical literature has found correlation between thyroid disease and breast disease and subpar thyroid function and even the leading cause of breast cancer. What really, upsets me is the fact that everybody's, going all these walks for breast cancer and all this stuff and donating all this money when they're not addressing the root cause of these problems. All they're doing is putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms. And, hopefully you've taken the time and effort to read my book, The Green Body Cleanse, because that's going to tell you about the root cause of all disease instead of just the symptoms of disease. So another thing iodine deficiency can affect is the structure and the function of the breast tissue. If you're breastfeeding or you're trying to get milk in there, it can also alter that. And the fact that the cystic breasts end up being very painful. And actually, there's even been correlation that cystic breasts may even lead to breast cancer. There was a study in 1967 by the Journal of American Medical Association that found breast cancer in mice was linked to iodine deficiency. The National Health and Nutrition Survey from 1971 to 2000 showed iodine levels had dropped 50% from 1971 to the year 2000. So that is, during that time, by the way, thyroid disorders. Think about this. How many thyroid disorders, how much breast cancer, how much prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, all of that has increased since iodine has been taken out of everything and bromine has been replaced into it. The fact is, there's no more iodine in the soil. You know, I have this argument with people. They're like, well, I get iodine through the food I eat. No, you do not. You are deficient in iodine. The whole world is pretty much deficient in iodine unless you live right next to the ocean and you eat seafood all day long. So there was a research that took place between 1975 and 1989, and 1,300 patients were examined with breast pathology and found that iodine improved 40 to 70% of pain and fibrosis symptoms. That was a survey. There was another 1995 where histological changes in breast tissue can be reversed by iodine. And 1996, there was a study, rat studies demonstrated that iodine suppresses the formation of breast tumors. I mean, you know, 1996, breasts have a relatively large capacity for iodine uptake. Iodine absorption, 1997, and incorporation into tissues occurs in the same ductal epithelium as the majority of breast cancers. Over 60% of women may experience fibrocystic changes. These changes may respond to 3 to 4 milligrams a day of iodine taken for 3 to 4 months. How expensive is iodine? Not nearly expensive as having breast cancer, that's for sure. So you're telling me that the world's best scientists, you know, all this money that's going into the cure for breast cancer, and all these women need to do is take 3 to 4 milligrams of iodine a day and their breast cancer is gone? I mean, it just makes no sense. So how can we ignore how vital this and how important iodine is for pregnant and nursing women too? If you're a woman, which we talked about earlier, and you're breastfeeding, I mean, even if you're pregnant, you need 2 to 3 or 4 times the amount of iodine than you need when you're not pregnant. Iodine deficiency has been directly associated with miscarriages, stillbirth, preterm delivery, cognitive problems. It can impair the fetal brain development. Even mild iodine deficiency during pregnancy can be detrimental. So, I mean, iodine deficiency just is affecting everyone. I mean, in 1990, here's another one. In 1990, the World Health Organization estimated a third of the world population is iodine deficient, and that situation hasn't even improved. That was in 1990. I think that right now we're looking at 75% at least of the world's population is iodine deficient. National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, massive survey that examines current health trends. First study in the early 70s found that 2.5% of citizens were iodine deficient. Now, up to 75%. Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism warned that these numbers indicate extreme iodine deficiency and doesn't include mild deficiency. Doctors have found now that the iodine, the biggest concentration of iodine, is stored in your thyroid gland. The second highest concentration of iodine is stored in women's ovaries. Women have a higher percentage of iodine deficiency than males do because women have breast tissue. Iodine is very, very needed for any type of glandular tissue. So prostate in male, ovaries, pituitary gland, brain, any type of hormone-producing gland requires iodine to function. What we found is why Dr. Brownstein, for example, has tested over 7,000 patients and found that over 96% of them are iodine deficient. So with the introduction, like I said, of fluoride, bromide, which are halogens, if you look at the periodic table under halogens, you're going to see iodine, bromide, fluoride, and chloride, which are derivatives of chlorine, fluorine, bromine. And the medical profession actually realized how effective iodine was
at healing multiple conditions a long time ago, so they wanted to take iodine out. For example, antibiotics were coming in to play. Well, there's no money in iodine, and you couldn't patent iodine. So what did they do? They wanted to suppress the iodine and introduce all the pharmaceutical antibiotics and all the pharmaceutical thyroid medications and all of those things. So they really put iodine on the back burner. So they know that if people have sufficient levels of iodine inside their body, that all of these different areas that they're treating, from heart disease, cancer, diabetes, all of that is linked to iodine deficiency. Thyroid dysfunction linked to iodine deficiency. Infertility linked to iodine deficiency. Polycystic ovaries, fibrocystic breast disease, because women have more fat, and the breast tissue and the reproductive areas in the body hold more iodine. So you can see that it's one of those substances that's necessary for every single thing in the body. And if you look at every single cell which has an iodine receptor, and the iodine comes in like this and fits into the receptor sites, what we found in the scientific research that's found over the last 50, 60 years is that all of our iodine receptor sites are being blocked by either bromide, because when they took the iodine out of breads, it was used in breads, not only to be a good source of iodine, but it was also used in breads as an antimicrobial, so the little bugs wouldn't get in the flour, right? They took the iodine out and they replaced that with bromide powder. So now you have a massive amounts of bromide.
Iodine is not just for the thyroid gland. Iodine is for breast tissue, ovaries, and testicles in men. Iodine literally will turn the gene that's been on off that promotes cancer. Apoptosis is limited cell life. Iodine keeps cancer cells in check. That's important. I spent time in Japan. The average Japanese woman consumes about 12 milligrams of iodine a day from sea vegetables and from fish. It's not about the soy. It's about sea vegetables and fish. Japanese women are not very big, by the way.
Japanese women really don't get menopausal symptoms and very low breast cancer rates, and they eat masses of seaweed, masses of sea fish, which has masses of iodine in it. Everybody's low on iodine because they're drinking, bathing in chlorinated water. They've got furniture which is off-gassing bromine, which knocks out iodine. They're using fluoride toothpaste, or there's fluoride in the water, and that's knocking out their iodine. They're going swimming in a swimming pool with chlorine in it. That knocks out the iodine. So pretty much everybody, unless they're being scrupulous, are low on iodine. And if you're low on iodine, you'll get menopausal symptoms, you'll get foggy thinking, you might get dry skin. If your elbows are dry skin there, then it's definitely iodine deficiency.
So all my patients at Iron Direct Primary Care are supposed to be taking iodine. Breast cancer. If you know a woman, they need iodine. The females require more iodine than men. One, because they have more tissues that require iodine. This may be also why women are diagnosed with hypothyroidism much more often than men, because they require more iodine. Their breast tissue requires large amounts of iodine. If you have a female that you know in your family, maybe a young woman, she has breast pain. Maybe she has what they call fibrocystic breast tenderness, breast tenderness, all this thing. This is an iodine deficiency. I've had patients in my practice with mastitis, so an infection of the breast. We give them back topical iodine, Lugol's iodine. We improve these sort of infections. I have women with fibrocystic breast tenderness, breast pain. Maybe every cycle they get breast tenderness or pain. I give them iodine and this rectifies the situation. So this goes to show you how important it is. The other critical element for the breast is selenium. On my YouTube channel, you can watch a lecture that I did with Dr. Kathleen Ruddy. She's a breast surgeon, and she'll say, most famously on my YouTube channel, that mammograms never prevented one breast cancer. And the reason she said this, after doing 30 years of breast surgeries, what prevents it is diet, exercise, and iodine and selenium.
There are pets all across the nation right now. So the iodine shouldn't only be used for you and your family, but it should be used for your pets as well, because veterinarians are finding now that pets are severely deficient in iodine because it's not in the food. And people and pets are being put on Synthroid, or they're being put on thyroid or desiccated thyroid. Well, guess what happens if you put someone on desiccated thyroid? It increases your need for iodine 2 to 3-fold. And if you're on thyroid medication and you're not taking a bunch of iodine, your chances of getting cancer go up 30 to 40% because you're on thyroid medication.